Sometimes I look at the world and wonder how we manage to twist the simplest things into the most complicated games. People say nice men finish last, as if kindness is some sort of curse. But the truth, it's not kindness that gets rejected. It's weakness pretending to be kindness. Because let's be honest, the women you think are or reachable, out of your league, too confident, or too beautiful, they're not pushing away nice men. They're pushing away men who disappear into the background of their own lives. Men who say yes to everything because they're terrified of losing something they never even had. The world doesn't reward the man who waits quietly for permission to exist. Attraction doesn't spark from softness alone. It ignites from certainty, from presence, from a man who knows who he is before he walks into the room. So when you say, why don't they want me? I'm a good guy. The question isn't whether you're good. The real question is, are you you, or are you just performing the version of yourself you think will get you chosen? Because nobody falls in love with a ghost. They fall in love with a force. And if you want to be that force, you've got to stop shrinking behind the label of nice and start rising into the man you were meant to be. Attraction isn't built on how nice you are. It's built on the energy you bring into a room, the way you hold yourself, the way you speak, the way you know who you are without waiting for anyone to validate it. People often confuse being nice with being attractive, but kindness is only magnetic when it comes from someone who's already grounded in their own identity. When your niceness is rooted in insecurity, fear, or the hope that someone will finally notice you, it doesn't feel like kindness. It feels like a plea. And trust me, people can sense that energy instantly. You've felt it yourself. You've met someone who seemed pleasant, polite, accommodating, yet something about them didn't pull you in. Why? Because niceness without confidence doesn't create curiosity, mystery, or depth. It creates predictability, and predictability rarely sparks desire. Confidence, on the other hand, is felt before it's heard. It's in the way you sit, the way you listen, the pauses you take before speaking, the quiet self-assurance that tells the world, I respect myself, and I'm not afraid to show up as who I am. That kind of energy hits different. It's the difference between someone who gives compliments because they genuinely mean them and someone who gives compliments hoping it will earn affection. It's the difference between a man who chooses to be kind and a man who uses kindness as only personality trait. People are drawn to someone who has presence, someone who has boundaries, who can say no, who doesn't collapse under pressure, who doesn't give up their values just because someone else demands it. That presence creates a sense of emotional safety, and emotional safety is what truly attracts, not the fake passive, I'll do anything to make you happy energy, but the grounded, I know myself and I'm not afraid to stand my ground energy. That's what people, especially the ones you label high value, naturally gravitate toward. And you've seen this play out. You've wondered why someone chooses the guy who seems a little rough around the edges, a little too bold, maybe even a little rebellious. But what he has is certainty. He moves with intention. He doesn't blend in. He stands out. And it's not because he's better looking, richer, or more charming. It's because he's rooted in who he is. Meanwhile, the nice guy often hides his true self behind politeness, hoping it'll be enough. But attraction doesn't respond to hope. It responds to energy. If you want people to be drawn to you, work on the foundation. Build confidence that doesn't need applause. Build self-respect that doesn't crumble under rejection. Build boundaries that show you value your own time and emotional space. When you combine confidence with genuine kindness, you stop being just a nice guy and start becoming a man whose presence is felt, remembered, and desired. People gravitate toward those who carry certainty in their energy, clarity in their presence, and strength in the way they move through the world. It's not about look, status, or being the loudest person in the room. It's about the unspoken message you send every time you show up. I know who I am, and I'm not here to audition for your approval. That kind of certainty is magnetic. It draws people in without you having to chase, convince, or perform. And the truth most people don't want to admit is this: the individuals often seen as high value or out of reach are used to being pursued, admired, and even worshipped. They've heard every compliment, experienced every type of superficial attention, and learned how to filter out energy that feels desperate or unsure. What cuts through the noise is presence, real presence, the kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't shrink, and doesn't rely on validation to feel complete. When someone carries themselves with emotional strength, it creates a sense of reliability that is incredibly attractive. It says, I can handle my emotions, my life, and myself, and that message alone creates a sense of safety and stability. People instinctively gravitate toward those who feel steady, not because they're perfect, because they're grounded. You've seen it happen before. A person walks in, says almost nothing, yet somehow commands more attention than the one talking nonstop. That's the power of certainty. It's quiet, but it's undeniable. It tells the world that this person isn't seeking permission to be here. They belong here. On the flip side, when someone enters with hesitation, second guessing, or the need to be liked, their energy becomes heavy. Approval-seeking energy repels the very attraction they're hoping to create. It feels like emotional weight, like responsibility, like something that needs to be managed. And nobody, no matter how beautiful or confident they are, wants to step into a dynamic where they have to constantly reassure someone of their worth. Attraction thrives on balance, two people meeting each other as equals, not one person trying to fill the emotional gaps of another. And here's where it gets real. The women labeled as or high value or desirable have even less tolerance for insecure energy, not because they're harsh, because their lives often require them to navigate unwanted attention, surface level praise, and people projecting fantasies onto them rather than seeing who they truly are. They crave someone who doesn't get blinded by their beauty, someone who treats them like a human, not a trophy, someone who doesn't crumble when they challenge them, someone who doesn't lose identity just to stay in their presence. What they are drawn to is a man who has self-respect woven into his posture, boundaries stitched into his voice, and confidence living in the way he makes decisions. A man who doesn't need to be loud to be strong or rude to be respected. A man whose calm tells a story louder than ego ever could. That's the energy that stands out. That's the energy that gets remembered. That's the energy that makes even the most sought after person pay attention. Many men confuse being nice with being attractive, but the problem isn't kindness. It's when niceness is just a mask for insecurity, fear, or the desperate need to be liked. When you're constantly bending over backwards, saying yes to everything, or avoiding conflict just to be seen as good, it sends the wrong signal. It's not saying I'm kind. It's saying I'm afraid of losing you. And attraction doesn't respond to fear. It responds to strength, confidence, and authenticity. People can feel when your gestures come from a place of need rather than genuine care. They sense it in the pauses before you speak, the way you hesitate to assert yourself, the way your energy folds in on itself, hoping someone will approve. That energy is not magnetic, it's draining. You've experienced it yourself. You've met someone who seemed polite, accommodating, and sweet, yet it left you feeling flat. That's because niceness without a backbone doesn't create excitement. It doesn't create curiosity. It doesn't create the spark that makes someone want to know more about you. The truth is, when people see a man who hides behind his niceness, they don't see his heart, they see his fear. They see someone willing to compromise his identity just to avoid rejection. That's not attractive. What is attractive is a man who is unapologetically himself, even if that means occasionally being blunt, saying no, or standing his ground. People gravitate toward those who have clarity about who they are and what they want, not those who shift in hopes of gaining approval. There's a difference between kindness and weakness. Kindness uplifts, weakness accommodates. Kinness is confident, weakness is tentative. When you blur the lines, people don't respond with attraction, they respond with pity, frustration, or indifference. You've probably noticed it. The guy who's too nice often gets overlooked, while someone bolder, more confident, or even a little reckless captures attention effortlessly. It's not luck, it's psychology. Confidence signals value. Assertiveness signals control. Boundaries signal self-respect. When niceness is performed without these elements, it's invisible. People are wired to follow energy, not words. A man who always says yes, never challenges, never stands out, will fade into the background, no matter how genuinely kind he is. Meanwhile, a man who sets limits, makes choices, and holds himself accountable will naturally attract attention, even if he's not trying. And here's the harsh truth most men don't want to hear. Women don't reject kindness. They reject performative niceness that lacks depth. They can tell when your words don't match your energy, when you're nice to get something is transparent. Nice because it's authentic, because it's rooted in confidence and self-respect. That energy becomes magnetic. That energy makes people lean in, makes them curious, makes them want to engage. That energy isn't just noticed, it's remembered. The key is to stop hiding behind the label of nice and start embodying authenticity. Stop being nice to earn approval and start being yourself in full force. Be kind, yes, but combine it with courage, boundaries, and integrity. Let your actions come from strength, not fear, and watch how the dynamic changes around you. People respond to energy before they ever respond to words. In the modern world of dating, attraction isn't just about being polite, charming, or even good looking. What really draws people in is authenticity, showing up as who you truly are without pretending, performing, or trying to fit someone else's expectations. People can sense when you're being real, and they aren't drawn to that energy because it's rare. Most people spend their lives wearing masks, the mask of being agreeable, the mask of being confident, the mask of being what they think others want. But masks only attract attention for a short time. They never build lasting connection. And here's the thing, people don't want to fall for a version of you that doesn't exist. They want to meet the person behind the mask. That's why modern dating favors authenticity over passivity or people pleasing, because the moment you try to mold yourself to fit someone else, you lose the energy that makes you magnetic. Authenticity creates clarity. When you are clear about who you are, what you want, and what you won't tolerate, it immediately sets you apart. It signals that you are not willing to compromise your identity just to be liked. And that kind of energy is incredibly attractive. Think about it. Have you ever been drawn to someone who seemed indecisive, unsure, or constantly trying to please everyone around them? It doesn't feel exciting. It feels exhausting. On the other hand, someone who knows their boundaries, expresses their desires openly, and doesn't shy away from confrontation when needed draws attention effortlessly. That's because confidence combined with authenticity communicates a deeper truth. You are not afraid to exist fully, and you don't need external validation to feel worthy. People are wired to notice consistency in energy. If someone's actions match their words, it creates trust, and trust is the foundation of attraction. When someone behaves one way to please you but acts differently when you're not looking, it creates confusion and disengagement. Authenticity removes all of that noise. It allows people to see who you really are and decide if they want to engage on the same level. That clarity is magnetic because it respects both your time and theirs. It shows that you are grounded, self-aware, and capable of carrying your own energy without relying on someone else to prop you up. Being authentic also requires courage because it means you will inevitably face rejection from people who cannot align with the real you. But here's the secret. The people who reject you for being yourself were never meant to stay. Authenticity acts like a filter. It keeps those who appreciate your energy close and naturally distances those who drain it. And this is where so many nice guys fail. They are nice, not because it comes naturally, but because they fear rejection, loneliness, or being disliked. That fear masks their true selves. And instead of attracting meaningful attention, they attract people who want a version of them that doesn't exist. The power of authenticity lies in the combination of self-respect, courage, and genuine energy. When you stop performing and start existing fully as yourself, people notice, they feel it. They are drawn in. Authenticity creates magnetic presence because it signals confidence without arrogance, kindness without weakness, and strength without aggression. It's the energy that leaves an impression, the kind of energy people remember long after a conversation ends, and the kind of energy that builds real, meaningful connections that go beyond superficial niceties. The reality is, it's not that women or anyone really dislike kindness. What they reject is performative niceness, the kind of nice that exists only to gain approval, avoid conflict, or earn validation. Authentic kindness is magnetic, but when it's used as a tool to manipulate perception, it loses all of its power. Think about it. When someone is nice, only to get something in return, it doesn't feel warm, it feels calculated. And people instinctively pick up on that energy. You've felt it yourself. You've met someone who seemed perfect on paper, always agreeable, always accommodating, yet something felt off. That discomfort isn't about them being too nice. It's about the energy behind the niceness. True attraction responds to depth, presence, and integrity, not superficial politeness or habitually saying yes. Boundaries are a critical part of this. A man who lacks boundaries under the guise of being nice signals that his self-worth is conditional. It communicates, I will give you what you want, even if it costs me. And no one is drawn to someone who doesn't respect themselves. Boundaries create a sense of value and presence. They say, I matter. My time matters. My energy matters, and that is infinitely more attractive than endless accommodation or people pleasing. Women, just like men, are drawn to confidence and self-respect because those qualities indicate emotional stability and reliability. They show that you're capable of holding your own, making decisions, and standing firm even when challenged. The people you admire, the ones who seem magnetic or unreachable, often have a consistent energy that doesn't fluctuate based on others' approval. They aren't bending themselves to fit expectations or doing things for recognition. They are present in their own lives, secure in their own identity, and generous in their interactions because it comes naturally, not because they hope it will buy affection. That energy is powerful. It creates attraction without trying. It pulls people in instead of pushing them away. And it's why so many men who define themselves solely as nice struggle in relationships. They mistake behavior for energy. Being nice is not enough if it's not paired with authenticity, self-respect, and presence. You've probably noticed it. The men who are bold, self-assured, and unafraid to express their often can capture attention effortlessly. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. They know their worth, they act with intention. They don't compromise themselves to be liked. That combination of confidence and kindness, the ability to be warm without being weak, caring without being desperate, is rare and it's magnetic. The lesson here is simple: focus on building internal strength, self-respect, and authenticity. Use kindness as a reflection of your true character, not as a currency for approval. When you do that, attraction happens naturally, effortlessly, and consistently. This is the energy that people remember, the energy that pulls them in, the energy that creates genuine connection. It's not about being loud, flashy, or overtly dominant. It's about being rooted, present, and intentional. It's about showing up fully as yourself and allowing your kindness to coexist with strength. That's the magnetic energy that turns nice guys into men who are not only respected but desired, not only liked but remembered, not only present but unforgettable.